This is my prime example of people that's puppet masters trying to control the narrative.
It now appears if she wants to run for supervisor again, it will have to be.
Tiffany Henyard, the self-proclaimed super mayor of Dalton, Illinois, is facing a rapidly crumbling political empire. Once a dominant force, Henyard now makes headlines for all the wrong reasons, accusations of extravagant spending and questionable leadership decisions. Her career is spiraling out of control, and a recent scandal has left even her most loyal supporters in disbelief. Could this mark the dramatic end of one of Illinois' most controversial political figures? Brace yourself, this story is about to be rewritten. The latest blow to Henyard's political career came during a historic and contentious Democratic caucus in Thornton Township. For the first time in decades, the party chose a caucus over a primary election to determine its nominees, significantly raising the stakes. Henyard, who currently serves as Thornton Township Supervisor and Mayor of Dalton, was aiming to secure her spot on the 2024 election ballot. However, things did not go as planned. In a dramatic turn of events, Henyard's name was completely barred from the ballot due to her failure to present a full slate of candidates, including roles like assessor and trustee. Without a certified assessor on her ticket, her candidacy was deemed invalid. Henyard was furious, accusing her opponents of foul play. The caucus itself was chaotic, with hundreds of people gathering at the Homewood Flossmoor Park District Auditorium in the cold to witness the political showdown. Inside, tensions were high as Senator Napoleon Harris, a state politician and Thornton Township Democratic committeeman, orchestrated the event with precision. Harris, who also ran for the supervisor role, emerged victorious, securing the Democratic nomination and effectively sidelining Henyard from the race. As the results were announced, the crowd erupted, not in applause for Harris, but in jeers and taunts directed at Henyard. Some even shouted, "Nana, hey, kiss him. Goodbye," in what could only be described as the ultimate political humiliation. The caucus marked a turning point in Thornton Township's political landscape and a significant setback for Henyard. However, things didn't go as planned. In a dramatic turn of events, Henyard's name was barred from the ballot entirely because she failed to meet the requirement of presenting a full slate of candidates, including roles like assessor and trustee. Without a certified assessor on her ticket, her candidacy was deemed invalid, leaving her furious and accusing her opponents of foul play. The caucus itself was chaotic, with hundreds of people braving the cold to gather at the Homewood Flossmoor Park District Auditorium for the political showdown. Inside, tensions were high as Senator Napoleon Harris, a state politician and the Thornton Township Democratic committeeman, orchestrated the event with precision. Harris, who also ran for the supervisor role, emerged victorious, securing the Democratic nomination and effectively shutting Henyard out of the race. As the results were announced, the crowd erupted, not in applause for Harris, but in jeers and taunts directed at Henyard. Some even shouted, "Nana, hey, kiss him. Goodbye," in a move that could only be described as the ultimate political humiliation, leaving Henyard reeling from the loss. This loss was more than just a political setback for Mayor Tiffany Henyard. It was a stinging public humiliation that further plunged her leadership into disarray, sparking widespread frustration and criticism among Dalton residents. Henyard's critics wasted no time pouncing, pointing to this latest defeat as yet another glaring example of her unraveling leadership and missteps in office. Social media erupted with fiery commentary, reflecting the growing discontent among voters. One disgruntled resident posted online, "Dalton, please vote as early as you can. Everyone vote. Make it too big to rig. Get her out of there," capturing the collective outrage of many in the community. Another resident commented, "Money and power corrupt. The more power, the more corruption," succinctly summing up the perception of Henyard as a leader whose priorities seemed increasingly detached from the needs of her constituents. The fallout from this loss highlighted the deepening divide between Henyard and her electorate, many of whom have grown disillusioned by her actions in office. Allegations of financial mismanagement, excessive spending, and self-serving decisions have fueled the sentiment that her leadership is more about personal gain than public service. Residents have repeatedly voiced concerns over the misuse of taxpayer money, citing examples such as her controversial $43,000 Amazon shopping spree, lavish trips funded by public coffers, and her apparent focus on self-promotion rather than addressing the community's pressing issues. The sense of betrayal among voters has only grown as Henyard's administration faces mounting scrutiny, including an ongoing FBI investigation into the alleged misuse of funds. This latest political blow has further eroded her standing, with many viewing her as a leader out of touch with the struggles of her community. Critics accuse her of fostering a culture of arrogance and entitlement, reflected in her public persona as the supermayor, and her combative interactions with both the town's trustees and residents. The discontent isn't limited to online outrage, it's palpable on the streets of Dalton. Residents are grappling with declining public services, a ballooning budget deficit, and a growing sense of mistrust in local government. The calls for accountability and change have grown louder, with many seeing this as a pivotal moment to reclaim their town's future. Henyard's loss has emboldened her critics and galvanized voters determined to bring new leadership to Dalton, signaling a shift in the political landscape as the town grapples with the consequences of her controversial tenure. Chris Lawson reported that many people in Dalton felt mentally drained and disheartened by her presence in public office. Calls for a change at the top in South suburban Dalton have reached a crescendo. To fully understand the dramatic downfall of Mayor Tiffany Henyard, one must look back to her earlier days when she was considered a rising star in local politics. Henyard once cultivated an image of being untouchable, branding herself as the supermayor, a leader capable of seamlessly juggling the demanding roles of Dalton's mayor and Thornton Township's supervisor. This dual role granted her immense control and influence, but also made her a target for critics, who soon began to question her motives and methods. Accusations of prioritizing personal gain over public service began to surface, and her reputation as a dedicated leader started to unravel under the weight of allegations of embezzlement, misuse of taxpayer funds, and extravagant spending. The controversy surrounding Henyard quickly snowballed, with one of the most glaring issues being her alleged misuse of public funds. Reports revealed her lavish lifestyle, funded by the very taxpayers she had sworn to serve. Trips to luxury destinations, extravagant dinners, and even personal beauty services were allegedly charged to public accounts, fueling outrage among Dalton's residents. Perhaps the most shocking revelation was that Henyard had charged over $33,000 to Amazon in a single day, a staggering amount that left many questioning her judgment and ethics. For a town with a median income of just over $24,000, such spending was not just inappropriate, it was deeply offensive to residents struggling to get by. One local resident lamented, "We deserve better," capturing the sentiment of a community that felt betrayed by its leader. As these allegations mounted, Henyard's grip on her image as the supermayor began to falter. Critics pointed out that her leadership seemed more focused on self-promotion and personal luxury than on addressing the pressing needs of the community. Beyond her lavish spending, her administration became tarnished by a growing list of controversies, including questionable financial decisions, a lack of transparency, and a perceived disregard for the very people she was elected to serve. Residents began to see Henyard as a leader who had lost touch with the struggles of her constituents, prioritizing personal extravagance over public welfare. Henyard's dual roles, once a testament to her ambition and capability, eventually became symbols of her overreach and mismanagement. They painted a picture of a politician who had stretched herself too thin, facing criticism on all fronts. As public trust eroded and the walls closed in, her fall from grace seemed almost inevitable, leaving behind a legacy of broken promises, unanswered questions, and a community yearning for change. The financial missteps of Mayor Tiffany Henyard continued to spiral, further highlighting the severity of her administration's issues. A preliminary investigation led by former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who was hired as a special investigator, revealed that the financial health of Dalton, Illinois, had rapidly deteriorated under Henyard's leadership. The general fund, which had once boasted a healthy balance of over $5 million in 2022, had plunged to a shocking deficit of nearly $4 million by mid-2024. Lightfoot, in her analysis of the situation, did not mince words, describing the fiscal outlook as dire and pointing directly to Henyard's spending as a key contributing factor to the town's financial woes. The investigation uncovered several eyebrow-raising expenses that only amplified the perception of mismanagement and waste. A particularly concerning discovery involved police officer overtime payouts that far exceeded the annual salaries of some officers. For example, one officer was found to have earned over $100,000 in overtime alone, on top of their regular salary. These excessive payouts, combined with other questionable expenditures, painted a grim picture of financial excess, mismanagement, and a complete disregard for the fiscal health of the town. The public's frustration was palpable as they learned about these lavish expenditures, particularly when many residents were struggling with the rising cost of living. In a town with a median household income of just over $24,000, Henyard's financial controversies were only part of the problem. Her abrasive leadership style and relentless pursuit of power alienated colleagues and constituents alike. Tensions within the Dalton Village Board grew as trustees began openly criticizing her administration, accusing her of running the town like a dictatorship. Several public meetings saw Henyard engaged in heated confrontations where she would openly berate trustees and dismiss their concerns. At one particularly infamous moment, Henyard declared, "You all forget I'm the leader. They want to hear from the mayor. You all ain't learned that yet, the mayor, not the trustees that don't do nothing." This comment only fueled the growing perception that Henyard was increasingly out of touch with the needs of the people she was supposed to serve. The sense of betrayal among voters has only grown as Henyard's administration faces mounting scrutiny, including an ongoing FBI investigation into the alleged misuse of funds. This latest political blow has further eroded her standing, with many viewing her as a leader out of touch with the struggles of her community. Critics accuse her of fostering a culture of arrogance and entitlement, reflected in her public persona as the supermayor, and her combative interactions with both the town's trustees and residents. Her remark dismissing her colleagues as unimportant further cemented her image as a leader unwilling to collaborate with those she governed alongside. This perception of arrogance and dismissal created significant political and public fallout. As the investigation into Dalton's finances continued, the broader consequences of Henyard's leadership became evident. Residents who had once viewed her as a powerful figure capable of revitalizing the area now saw her as the embodiment of dysfunction and mismanagement. Her pursuit of power, both within Dalton and Thornton Township, had created a toxic political environment that left many frustrated. Henyard's reputation as the supermayor had been tarnished beyond recognition. Every new revelation seemed to drag her further into scandal. The issues in Dalton went beyond financial mismanagement and personal conflict. Residents began to voice concerns about the deteriorating state of local services. Public works were failing, emergency services were underfunded, and many Dalton residents felt their concerns were being ignored by the leadership they had entrusted to address their needs. A ballooning budget deficit, poor service delivery, and a growing sense of leadership prioritizing personal gain over the community's welfare created a perfect storm of dissatisfaction and frustration. Henyard's financial troubles were compounded by her inability to maintain control of her administration and the local political landscape. Mayor Tiffany Henyard also found herself embroiled in a contentious legal battle with the Dalton Park District. The district accused her of withholding permits for crucial park improvements, effectively stalling projects funded by large grants. Park officials alleged these actions were politically motivated, claiming Henyard targeted the district because it had allowed her opponents to hold meetings on its property. This controversy, coupled with reports of her administration issuing thousands of dollars in citations to the Park District for routine maintenance tasks, added to her tarnished image. Critics viewed these actions as petty and vindictive, further eroding her public standing. The rise and fall of Tiffany Henyard is a cautionary tale about ambition, power, and the consequences of losing touch with the community. Her political career, once filled with promise, now seems defined by controversy and scandal. Whether Henyard can recover or if this marks the end of her political life remains uncertain. Let us know in the comments, is Tiffany Henyard a victim of political sabotage, or has she only reaped what she sowed? Stay tuned for more updates on this unfolding drama.